Seoul, the bustling modern capital of South Korea, may be losing its appeal to the wealthy.
Korea has ranked at fourth in the world for the number of high net worth individuals to move to other countries for citizenship.
Meanwhile, the moneyed South Koreans have also seen their net worth dwindle.
South Korea's economic growth has slowed down significantly, especially after the martial law at the end of 2024.
Why has Seoul seemingly lost its appeal to the wealthy?
그들은 무엇이냐면 자신의 현재뿐만 아니라 미래의 자산에 대해서도 신경 쓰기 때문에 한국에 대해서 투자하는 것은 그만큼 가치가 없다는 것을 의미합니다.
And what does the outflow of the affluent tell us about South Korea?
저도 부모님보다 저희 세대가 더 가난하게 살 것이라고 생각을 합니다.
"20 years ago, South Korean Ken Lee found himself in Singapore on secondment. 5 years later, he founded a business consulting firm there. Today, he's a millionaire working with some well-known brand names.
We are handling more than 1,000 over clients in Singapore, mainly Korean companies like Hyundai Motorcar, Samsung, LG, Lotte, SK, all the duty-free shops, and Paris Baguette. We do accounting and audit, tax, HR service, recruitment, all the consulting service we provide to them, especially some wealthy people who wants to relocate from Korea to Singapore.
When Ken first migrated, only a small number of high net worth Koreans were on the move. 2 decades later, more of the well-heeled, mostly from Seoul, are looking for a change of scenery.
Actually, I moved rich people. Rich people means a few $100 million or sometimes some $10 to $20 million people, net worth. Actually, they had an inquiry to me every year around 5. So I moved almost 50 people, rich people, to Singapore already. But nowadays, especially this year, only 6 months passed. About 10 inquiries came to us.
Seoul, South Korea's capital, is losing its status as a magnet for wealth. Last year, the megalopolis dropped from 19th to 24th place in Henley & Partners' Top 50 Cities for Millionaires list. The list ranks cities by the number of resident high net worth individuals, defined by the migration consultancy as those with at least $1 million in investable liquid assets. Out of the 50 cities listed, Seoul saw the sharpest decline. And in fact, before this year's list was published, the number of millionaires had begun falling 3 years ago, from 97,000 in 2022 to 82,500 in 2023, then to 66,000 in 2024. Of last year's loss of some 16,500 ultra-wealthy, around 1,200 of them migrated, while another 15,300 slipped from the millionaire status.
According to their report, Korea has ranked at fourth in the world for the number of high net worth individuals to move to other countries for citizenship. And among them, the first one is China, and then UK and India. Considering the population, except China and India, Korea is the second biggest country in the number of migrating to the other countries.
So, why have some 1,200 wealthy individuals left Seoul? For one, it could be South Korea's tax regime. The country has a progressive tax system, with the top earners taxed at a rate of 45%. It also has some of the highest inheritance tax rates in the world. Passing on assets above 3 billion won, or just over $2 million, are levied at 50%.
So tax burden is lighter, but it's still very high by global standards. So that's one reason why wealthy individuals are looking abroad. That's for protecting their assets. When they get older, they want to pass their assets to their children. You have to pay higher tax here, but if you do that in outside the country where tax rates are relatively low, it will give them incentive even after the moving cost. I think they can save a lot of money in tax.
Top destinations for South Koreans include the United States, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and Singapore.
They have more stable rules and investor-friendly tax system. They have lower tax rates. So it became very attractive to those rich people. Vancouver and Los Angeles, they have a very big Korean community, good schools, and real estate investment. So they provide good opportunity for real investment. Dubai is for probably asset protection and income tax is close to zero and safe banking system. So compared to Seoul, they provide better quality of life in some cases. And most important thing is the stable tax environment and global networks.
Another push factor is pessimism over South Korea's economy. According to Hana Bank's 2025 Korean Wealth Report, 3/4 of wealthy individuals expect the economy to worsen this year.
It's not just the tax reason, but they see better opportunity outside the country. It can be not just the tax, but business-friendly environment and the growing opportunity.
Nowadays, Korea economy is a bit down. Also politically a bit unstable. So that's the reason why a lot of people come to here, and also me.
But why should South Korea, or any country for that matter, be concerned if the ultra-rich leave? For one, there's the risk of capital flight. South Korea's KB Financial Group defines the rich in South Korea as those with more than 1 billion won, about $700,000 in financial assets. Some 460,000 people fall into this category. It's a tiny proportion of South Korea's 51 million population, but an important one.
That's slightly less than 1% of Korean population, but they hold nearly 60% of total household financial assets. So the concentration is really high. Those super rich people are concentrated in Seoul.
예, 그 대한민국의 부유층들은 투자나 소비를 담당하는 아주 중요한 주체입니다. 이들이 투자와 소비를 함으로써 기업의 매출이 올라가고 또한 기업의 투자가 늘어납니다. 이런 기업의 투자가 늘어나면 고용이 늘어나고 이 고용이 늘어나면 이 중산층들이 더욱더 수입이 좋아집니다. 현재 많은 부유층들이 한국을 이탈하는 것은 이러한 선순환에 악영향을 줄 것이라고 생각이 됩니다.
Additionally, the rich leaving could be a portent of dark clouds ahead for the economy.
다른 나라로 가는 것은 상당히 한국 경제에 안 좋은 신호라고 보고 있습니다. 부자들이 많이 한국을 떠난다는 것은 그 미래에 대한 한국에 대한 투자의 수익성이 떨어진다는 걸 의미합니다. 그들은 무엇이냐면 자신의 현재뿐만 아니라 미래의 자산에 대해서도 신경 쓰기 있기 때문에 한국에 대해서 투자하는 것은 그만큼 가치가 없다는 것을 의미합니다.
As the rich pack their bags, some sectors feel the effects.
하이엔드가 우후죽순 들어섰던 때가 있거든요. 그때는 이제 금리도 좋았고 한 3, 4년 전이었는데 그때는 금리도 좋았고 근데 지금은 분양 자체가 아예 안 되고 있습니다. 분양 자체가 아예 안 되고 거의 미분양 물건으로 남아 있고.
Kim Jun-gon entered the real estate sector as a realtor 10 years ago. He deals with affluent clients searching for high-end apartments and offices.
아무래도 저도 이제 하이엔드 그 주거 상품도 다루고 있고 강남의 오피스나 빌딩을 다루다 보니까 그런 자산가들이 빠져나가는 거는 엄청 좋지 않습니다. 제 사업에는 계속해서 빠져나가면은 분양도 안 되고 분양이 안 되면은 수분양자들도 골머리 아프고 계속 임대료는 내려가는데 그거를 수요가 없고 수요가 점점 줄어드니까 계속 부동산 시장이 줄어들고 사실 그 2022년, 23년도부터 시작된 고금리 그때부터 폐업하시는 주위의 중개사분들이 너무 많아가지고요. 지금 중개업을 떠나시는 분들이 너무 많고 아니면 투잡을 하시는 분들 이런 분들이 너무 많다고 보시면 되겠습니다. 그런 부분에서도 한국에서는 부자가 좀 사업을 하거나 살기에는 점점 좋지 않아지고 있는 환경이 아닌가.
The exodus of the rich is quite a new phenomenon. After all, Seoul was once a magnet for the world's wealthy. How did the city start losing its appeal to the affluent?
I came in 2022 for business. I really love the environment here. It was very friendly, people were really nice, and the safety actually really caught my eye. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to move to Korea, because it makes you feel less concerned about your environment, and it's actually good for business.
Turk Alijan Yıldızap moved to Seoul in 2023 after winning a startup challenge hosted by the Korean government.
So this startup challenge is designed for foreign entrepreneurs only, and the idea is to open the Korean market for foreign startups, foreign entrepreneurs. Overall, it's a, fast entry, welcoming package for foreigners who want to move their business into Korea, and also not just in Korea, but use Korea as their base of operations for further Asian expansion into other markets. I have been working mostly on the technology field with artificial intelligence companies as my expertise and specialty.
Yıldızap is preparing to launch an AI-curated meal subscription service for children in Seoul. Most of South Korea's tech firms are headquartered here in the capital, including some of its largest companies by value.
대한민국의 역사를 보면 6.25 전쟁 이후에 굉장히 대한민국의 경제는 세계에서 가장 밑바닥에 있는 경제였습니다. 그렇기 때문에 1960년대부터 80년대까지 대한민국의 첫 번째 목표는 경제 성장이었습니다. 그 경제 성장의 중심에는 서울이 있었습니다. 대한민국 정부는 의도적으로 서울의 많은 부분을 계획해서 새로운 도시를 건설하고 새로운 아파트 단지를 건설함으로써 많은 부분의 서울의 부분들이 고급 도시로 탈바꿈되었습니다. 다른 지역에 비해서 부자들이 많이 사니까 그 지역에서는 지역 경제의 세금도 더 거치고 또한 도시도 더욱더 발전함으로써 더욱더 부자들이 유입되는 경향이 있습니다.
Driven by household names like Samsung and LG, South Korea's electronics boom began in the 1980s. It later expanded into a tech boom in the 2000s.
대한민국 정부가 2000년대 이후부터 가장 신경 썼던 것은 최첨단 산업에 대한 대한민국 산업의 발전입니다. 그 중심에서는 무엇이 있었냐면 전자산업, 그리고 반도체 산업, 그리고 자동차 산업이 있었습니다. 이런 혁신 산업의 같은 경우는 진입 장벽이 상당히 크고 하지만 한번 진입을 하면 굉장히 고부가 가치 그리고 큰 수익률을 낼 수 있는 산업입니다. 현재도 이런 산업이 대한민국의 주류를 이루고 많은 부자들은 자신의 재산을 이런 산업에 주식에 투자함으로써 그 재산을 늘리고 있습니다.
Between 2013 to 2023, Seoul saw a 28% rise in millionaires. In contrast, Tokyo saw a drop of 5%, and London by 10% in the same period. But now, millionaire growth in Seoul is slowing down. The number of wealthy individuals jumped by just 1% between 2023 and 2024. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, South Korea has faced several headwinds.
다른 나라 마찬가지로 대한민국도 코로나 기간 동안에 상당히 어려움을 겪었습니다. 한국이 코비드 이후에 다른 나라보다 더욱더 타격을 가진 이유는 이미 한국은 가계부채가 상당히 높았습니다. 코비드 전에서도. 그렇지만 코비드 이후에는 그 가계부채가 GDP 대비 100%를 초과하는 바람에 상당히 다른 나라에 비해서 부채가 상당히 크다고 볼 수 있습니다. 다른 나라 같은 경우는 코비드 이후에 부채가 많이 쌓이지 않아서 사람들의 소비 심리가 금방 회복이 됐지만 대한민국 같은 경우는 이 소비 심리가 코비드 이후에 회복이 되지 않은 현실입니다.
Typically, when people are in debt, they spend less. So, last year, the contribution of domestic demand in South Korea to GDP growth plunged to 0.1%, compared to 4.1% in 2021. This is far below the average of 1.6% among OECD nations. The retail sales index is also on its longest decline streak since statistics were recorded. Business sentiments in the manufacturing industry, which makes up a quarter of the country's GDP, are muted.
그러므로 인해서 주식시장에서 이와 관련된 산업들이 주식 가격이 예상했던 것보다는 그 주식이 오르지 않는 현상이 발생하고 있습니다. 많은 그 부자들이 이런 상황에서 대한민국 주식시장이 투자할 가치가 있나에 의구심을 겪고 있고 이런 이유로서 외국 투자가 늘어나고 심지어는 외국까지 아예 가버리는 상황이 이어지고 있습니다. 이런 국내 투자의 위축은 결국 기업들이 투자를 많이 안 할 것이고 고용 시장에도 안 좋은 악순환의 결과로 이어질 수 있습니다.
While the country's exports last year reached a record high, it's expected to decline this year due to stiff competition from Chinese goods and US tariffs. Sales of Korean goods to overseas markets make up roughly 40% of the economy.
So export growth is a traditional engine of the economy, but they lost the momentum due to the global trade uncertainty. And then export is main revenue for most Korean conglomerates that affect their dividends and family wealth, but that has been decreasing over time.
And there's a slight possibility that if one of them fails, it could cause a domino effect and a chain reaction that could affect the entire economy. So I guess that's a concern for every Korean citizen and everyone who's doing business in Korea. I guess that's why the government is trying to boost the startup ecosystem and small and medium enterprises so that the economy could get a bit more robust, could get a bit more resilient to these kind of negative effects.
Meanwhile, keeping assets in South Korea has cost the ultra-wealthy. Forbes found that the collective net worth of the country's 50 richest people dropped to $99 billion from $115 billion last year. One reason is the protracted political crisis that followed former President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law declaration last December. By the end of last year, the won tumbled to its lowest level since the 2008 global financial crisis.
Recently, we had some political issues in South Korea, and people are getting nervous because nobody wanted to, live uncomfortable or uncertainty.
This immigration agency opened in 2017. It services affluent Koreans who wish to migrate to the US.
Last year, we had 100 families joined us to start their immigration process with us. And this year, at first half of this year, we surpassed that number. So I think this trend is increasing.
Every year, Yuri's firm organizes seminars for those who are looking to migrate. Typically, 50 to 100 clients attend these sessions to learn more about US residency.
They are from professionals and successful entrepreneurs and, engineering backgrounds. They are rich, wealthy people. I think high net worth individuals, they want to have more, opportunities to live better place and to have, better opportunities for their financial things.
And there could be more headwinds coming. The Trump administration has set a 15% tariff on South Korean imports starting August 1st. This was negotiated down from the initial 25%. Consequently, the Korea Development Institute cut this year's growth forecast from 1.6% in February to 0.8% in May.
That projection has changed after the Trump's Liberation Day higher tariff. So that's the lowest economic performance since 1990 when we had an Asian financial crisis in the 1997. So that's less than half of the OECD average. So it's very low.
The ailing economy is, however, just one part of the story. For the rich, quality of life is also a priority.
For lifestyle migration, people cares about public safety and community infrastructure, that kind of things. People who wanted to have more, school infrastructure, better opportunity to go better university.
부자들이 생각하는 것이 여러 가지가 있는데 저는 가장 큰 문제는 이제 에듀케이션, 교육 문제라고 생각합니다. 또한 대한민국이라는 서울이라는 국가는 아직도 교육 인프라나 여러 가지 환경 면에서는 많은 사람들이 좋은 대학을 가기 위해서 노력을 하고 부모들이 상당한 사교육비로 굉장히 많은 돈을 사용을 하는데 이런 면에서 부자들 입장에서는 내 자녀들을 한국에서 교육을 받게 하는 것이 과연 자녀의 행복에 도움이 될까에 대해서 심각하게 생각하게 되었습니다. 또 이런 교육 문제를 인해서 결국 뭐냐면 해외로 나가는 결심을 한 경우가 많습니다.
If you live in Seoul, it's too crowded and the living costs are high. You wanna medicate. The housing costs are high unless you wanna move outside out of the Seoul or big city. But if you move outside the big cities, then the amenities are not quite attractive because a lot of things are concentrated in the big cities like Seoul.
These reasons explain why some of the wealthy have decided to leave Seoul. But a much larger proportion of millionaire loss is due to their declining net worth. What changed in the fortunes of the wealthy? And what about the middle class who want to climb the wealth ladder? "38-year-old Jiwon was working in an education franchising company. 5 months ago, she was laid off. She has requested to use an alias.
요즘에는 특별하게 이렇게 뭔가 생산적인 일을 하는 거는 지금은 좀 많이 못 하고 있고 아이를 등원하고 하원하고 주로 이제 육아를 못 했었던 그 부분에 대해서 이제 좀 케어를 하려고 최근엔 아이를 주로 많이 보고 있고요. 그거 말고는 집에서 집안일하고 요리하고 살림하고 그런 쪽으로 많이 치우쳐져 있는 것 같아요. 저희 지금 남편이 한 달 수입이 그러니까 세후로 해서 310만 원이 이제 들어오고 있고요. 그리고 제가 실업급여 받고 있다고 말씀드렸는데 그건 한 달에 한 190만 원 정도가 되고 있어서 지금 그 남편과 제가 받는 실업급여를 합치면 한 500만 원 정도의 수입이 되고 있습니다.
When she was working, Jiwon drew a salary of 3 million won a month. That puts her family squarely in the middle class in South Korea. The OECD defines the middle class as households earning between 75% to 200% of the median wage. In South Korea's case, that's a monthly income of about 4.1 to 10.7 million won, or 3 to 7.8 thousand US dollars. 6 in 10 working adults belong to this group. Jiwon, however, doesn't feel very middle class.
지금 저희가 집에 지금 대출이 있지는 않아요. 대신에 차를 지금 저희가 렌트를 해서 사용하고 있는데 그 차량 렌트비하고 부모님께 나가는 용돈하고 그리고 고정비라고 하죠. 그러니까 저희 신랑이랑 제가 쓰는 통신비라든지 보험료라든지 이렇게 해서 매달 나가는 그 고정비가 이렇게 세 가지가 가장 좀 많이 나가는 비용 중에 하나입니다. 그 지출을 하고 나면은 그러니까 저축할 수 있는 것까지 다 포함하면은 100에서 150 정도 금액이 있는데요. 이제 제가 실업급여가 끝나고 나면은 이제 마이너스가 되겠죠.
Jiwon's family lives on the outskirts of Seoul in Gyeonggi Province. Property here is about 2 to 3 times less than in the capital.
그러니까 이게 어떤 분위기가 만들어진 게 아닌가 싶긴 한데 한국은 중산층의 기준이 좀 있더라고요. 나름 정해져 있는 게 있는데 예를 들면 뭐 30평대 서울의 아파트를 자가로 가지고 있다던가 그리고 뭐 2000cc 이상의 차량을 뭐 소유하고 있어야 된다던가 그리고 월 소득이 적어도 500만 원 이상은 돼야 된다던가 하는 그런 조건들이 있더라고요. 저는 그럼 거기에 맞춰가지고 제 기준을 들이대면 저는 중산층이 아닌 거죠.
Increasingly, many South Koreans who are middle class by definition do not perceive themselves as so. A survey by NH Investment and Securities showed that in 2022, 45% felt this way. This is an increase from 2 years before, when 40% shared the sentiment. This is no surprise. While middle-class household incomes rose by 4.4% last year, expenditure increased more by 6.1%. They also saw their disposable income drop to 700,000 won this year, from 900,000 won in the middle of the pandemic.
상대적으로 대한민국 서울에 직장을 다니는 사람들은 다른 국가에 비해서 많은 월급을 받고 있는 것이 확실합니다. 그럼에도 불구하고 사교육비에서 엄청난 돈을 소비하고 있고 또한 만약에 부동산을 살 경우 홈 모기지에 대해서 또 많은 대출 비용을 지불해야 되기 때문에 그 위에 남는 돈이 거의 없습니다. 이것이 굉장히 아이러니한 것인데 과거에 비해서 상당히 월급은 많이 올랐지만 더욱더 살기 어렵다고 느껴지는 것이 대한민국의 현실입니다.
So the domestic demand are driven by middle class in general. But when middle class doesn't consume, domestic sector like retail, housing and service sectors will have trouble.
The Kospi, South Korea's benchmark stock index, had a lackluster 2024. It recorded 6 consecutive months of decline, even as indices elsewhere hit record highs. Over 1 million businesses, mostly retail and restaurants, closed. Tax receipts also fell in the first 8 months of 2024, mainly due to weak corporate earnings.
대한민국의 내수 시장이 안 좋아지면 결국 뭐냐면 기업이 매출을 많이 올릴 수가 없고 기업이 투자를 많이 올릴 수가 없습니다. 많은 굉장한 한국의 부자들이 대한민국 기업의 주식을 보유하고 있는데 결국 기업의 성과가 안 좋다는 것은 이들의 재산이 증축될 수 있는 기회가 없다는 것입니다.
The sluggish economy could explain why some of the 15,300 millionaires have fallen out of that wealth bracket. As for those in the middle class, hoping to climb the wealth ladder, South Koreans in general are pessimistic about their chances. In one survey by the Korea Development Institute in 2023, only 30% of respondents believe their children will have a better socio-economic status than themselves.
This is a big shift from the past decades when the Korean economy has a really rapid growth and living standard has been catching up. So the upward mobility is becoming hard is a big issue, and the largest concern for them is the decline in population in the aging population structure make them pay high tax rates in the future because they have to support a lot of older generation.
저는 서울에 있는 명지대학교에서 경영학과를 졸업했고요.
26-year-old Cho Han-bin entered the workforce over a year ago. He secured a role in banking, a common route to financial success.
연으로 말씀드리는 게 맞는 것 같고요. 지금 5천만 원 좀 넘는 정도 급여 수령하고 있습니다. 주변 동기들에 비해서는 그래도 조금 많이 받고 있는 편입니다.
Cho aspires to achieve millionaire status by the time he turns 40. $1 million is about 1.4 billion won. Despite having a good job, Cho feels his dream is quite out of reach.
한국에 있는 순자사 가구 소득이 가구 중위 소득이 현재 6,500만 원 정도 되는데 한 푼도 쓰지 않고 한 30년 가량을 모아야 하는 금액이기 때문에 그 작은 회사나 이제 대기업이 아닌 그런 작은 회사를 다녔을 때에는 상당히 그 추구하기 좀 어려운 그런 목표라고 생각하고 있습니다. 만약에 달성을 한다고 해도 대기업 기준으로 은퇴 이후에 퇴직금까지 수령했을 때 한 60세 정도 되어야지 가능한 사람이 어느 정도 나올 것이라고 생각합니다. 국내 주식에 현재 좀 많은 돈을 투자하고 있는 상황인데 그 계엄이나 이런 사태 때문에 국내 주식이 좀 갑자기 크게 하락하면서 저도 좀 타격을 입은 경향이 있습니다.
So, how do South Koreans grow their wealth? Historically, it has been real estate. Housing accounts for about half of the average household's asset mix. Other properties make up another 23% or so. But in Seoul, prices of homes have climbed over 16% between January 2023 and April 2025. Many young working adults feel priced out.
So apartment is most important investment vehicle in Korea. So they want to buy an apartment. The best apartment they can afford means that they push their borrowing to the max. So they spend a lot of money in a housing, but even they do so, they cannot get into the very affluent area of Seoul, where the price appreciation is the highest. That makes feel them they cannot catch up in the housing market. So even though they are classified as middle class, according to the statistics in terms of income and their housing, they feel that they are more likely to move down than moving up.
Meanwhile, many of Cho's peers are struggling to find a job. According to the Korea Enterprises Federation, only 60% of companies plan to hire new employees this year, the lowest since 2022. Another survey found that young adults spend an average time of nearly 2 years looking for employment. A tenth have been out of work for more than 4 years.
The unemployment rate is relatively high, especially for younger kids, because the large firms are not growing, so they have a hiring squeeze. So a lot of them depend on the contract job, low salary, and 2-year contract. So that's very bad. And if these young people are not getting stable jobs with very good career prospect, the middle class will be shrinking because as you get older, you should get more salary. But if you stay in a contract job and your growth profile is not good, then those young people will not make as much as their parents made in the past.
현재는 계약직이기 때문에 정규직으로의 이제 전환이 필요하고 저도 안정적으로 계속 일을 하고 싶어서 그런 회사를 찾고 있습니다. 그리고 저 역시도 현재 독립을 하려다가 계속 독립을 미루고 있는 상황이기 때문에 저도 부모님보다 저희 세대가 더 가난하게 살 것이라고 생각을 합니다.
As Seoul wrestles with its economic woes, can the city attract the wealthy back again? Third of June, and South Korea has a new leader. Early results showed that Lee Jae-myung of the Democratic Party had won the presidential election. He will replace Yoon Suk-yeol, who had been charged and removed from power over the December martial law fiasco.
작년 말에 예상치 못한 계엄 사태를 겪었는데 일단 가장 시급한 것은 국민적 통합이고 또한 정치적 안정이 중요한 것 같습니다.
After Lee's election victory, the benchmark Kospi index jumped 2.5%. The stock market has rallied since the start of the year and is currently near its 52-week high. The won also rose 0.5% against the US dollar following Lee's win.
지금 대한민국의 특징은 무엇이냐면 새로운 대통령이 집권하면 그 대통령에 대해서는 기대를 하는 것이 전체적인 국민적 정서인 것 같습니다. 그런 의미에서 지금 부자들도 새로운 대통령이 새로운 정책으로서 경제 발전과 그리고 또한 경제의 균형 성장을 이룰 것이라는 기대감을 가지고 있습니다.
Lee proposed a 30 trillion won budget aimed at reviving the economy in his first parliamentary address. His first executive order was to form an emergency economic task force. It's currently drawing up a 5-year plan, slated to be released next month.
저는 이제 지금이라도 정책적 방향을 다시 정하면 대한민국이랑 또 서울은 그 부유층들이 좋아하는 도시로서 다시 탈바꿈할 수 있을 것이라고 생각을 합니다.
우리 국민은 오로지 등 따시고 배부르게 지금보다는 더 나은 내일을 만들어 달라는 것 아닙니까?
While campaigning, Yi also promised to strengthen social safety nets for the underprivileged.
아마도 이재명 대통령 이후에는 재정 지출을 확대하고 그리고 정말 소비할 수 있는 능력을 갖춘 사람들에게 감세하는 것이 아니라 소비가 필요하지만 소비를 하지 못하는 중산층과 저소득계층에게 더 많은 재정 지출을 확대할 것으로 예상되기 때문에
Near the affluent neighborhood of Gangnam stands a building that seems a little out of place. For 37 years, the Batpo Soup Kitchen has offered free meals to the marginalized.
연세는 90대 이상이 지금 한 10분에서 15명 정도가 되고 주로 70대, 80대가 제일 많습니다. 수도권 전체에서 온다고 보시면 됩니다. 아침 식사는 150에서 많을 때 한 200명 그 사이고요. 점심 식사는 400명에서 500명 사이입니다. 어느 날 많은 날은 막 700명, 800명 오기도 해요. 갈수록 노인 빈곤이 지금 심해지고 있습니다. 날이 가면 갈수록 계속 증가 추세이고 또 이렇게 노인 빈곤율, 노인이 상대적으로 너무 못 살아요.
South Korea has the highest elderly poverty rate among OECD countries, with about 40% of those over 65 living below the poverty line. It's also a super-aged society, where 1 in 5 is 65 years old or older. There are more people in their 70s than those in their 20s.
The speed of aging of Korea is fastest in the world. And if the ratio of population above 65 expected to go beyond 40% in 2050. So the consequences of this fast aging society includes decreasing working age populations, ever increasing social welfare cost or health insurance deficit, and deepening the poverty of the old.
An aging society will present a big challenge for South Korea's economy. The elderly typically have the lowest consumption rates across all generations.
So, for example, Bank of Korea warned that 1% increase in the elderly population will reduce the GDP growth by nearly 6%. So the GDP growth of Korea will be a lot worse as time goes on. That's the big concern. The spending will grow in the welfare and pension, but there are less number of people who will pay the tax.
And therein lies South Korea's conundrum. As the population ages, welfare spending will go up even as the tax base gets smaller with a shrinking workforce. To pay for social programs, higher taxes may need to be levied, precisely the thing that could turn away the rich.
The rich don't want to expect government to spend their money from the tax to help ever increasing the old. There is no end about that, and maybe that's another reason for them to move out from this country.
And if South Korea wishes to lure the wealthy back to Seoul, it will face stiff competition. Many other global cities are vying to attract the same group of affluent, offering things like tax incentives and golden visas.
So many Asian countries are now competing to attract global wealth, rich people around the world. The reason is that wealthy individuals bring not just their own family, but they bring capital, business networks, family offices, and philanthropic investment. And Singapore leads the race with low taxes. I think they provide business-friendly regulation and dedicated support to family offices. And Dubai offers zero income tax and investor-friendly policies. And Malaysia, Thailand, and Japan also have introduced golden visa and long-term residency schemes. Unfortunately, Korea lags far behind these peers in attracting wealthy individuals because of the high inheritance tax regulation is complicated, and visa system is not suitable for rich people to reside in longer term.
The Yi administration wants to enact tax reform, reducing the capital gains and corporate tax rates. The plan is to spur investment and entrepreneurship. Some, however, argue that lowering taxes may not reap the promised rewards.
미국이나 유럽에서 다시 말하면 상속세 세율, 법인세 세율, 소득세 세율을 인하한 결과 국가의 재정은 나빠지고 그리고 사회의 양극화, 경제의 양극화는 더 심화되었지만 그로 인해서 그렇게 깎아준 세금, 경감한 세금을 가지고 다른 나라 또는 자국에 더 많은 투자를 해서 경제 성장이 나타나고 있다라고 보기는 어렵습니다. 그 과정에서 나타나는 불평등 문제는 대한민국 사회를 안정적으로 지속 발전시키는데 저해할 수 있다.
Attracting wealth into a country also stirs up concerns of exacerbating income inequality. South Korea's inequality is moderate compared to other Asian countries. However, last year, the disparity in income between the top and bottom 10% of households exceeded 200 million won, the widest gap on record.
According to recent statistics, income of upper 20% is 65 times more than lower 20% of population in Seoul. And also, 8 out of 10 Seoul citizens, they feel asset inequality problem is severe, particularly in the process of real estate building. And this kind of inequality may be a big problem in Korea.
한국 사람들도 다른 나라와 같이 비슷한 수준의 부자에 대한 혐오를 가지는데 한국이 다른 나라와 다른 특징은 뭐냐면 정부가 주도적으로 특정 부분, 서울 부분 그리고 강남 중심의 개발을 하는 바람에 이 지역은 다른 지역에 비해서 엄청나게 빠른 속도로 집값이 상승했다는 것입니다. 이거에 대해서 강남 지역에 살지 않는 사람들은 상대적인 박탈감을 가지는 것이 현실입니다.
For the Batpo Soup Kitchen, the widening rich-poor divide has had real impact.
자꾸만 이 동네 사람이나 또 이렇게 강남에 좀 잘 사는 분들은 이런 무료 급식소 시설은 왜 이렇게 땅값 비싼 데 있냐, 무료 급식과 무료 병원을 하냐, 저 무료 병원도 무료 급식소도 멀리 좀 나가라. 또 거기에 동조한 사람들이 계속 구청과 시청에 민원을 내서 한때 뭐 철거를 한다는 등 이전을 시키겠다는 등 이런 얘기들이 좀 많이 있었죠.
As these tensions between the haves and have-nots play out in Seoul, one question remains. Will Seoul continue to lose the well-heeled? Or could a rebounding economy reverse the outflow of wealth?
Seoul have strengths in talented manpower, safety and security, and cultural diversity, while higher level of price level in food and housing, unpredictable government policies, and negative sentiment against the rich are shortcomings for us. I believe it depends on how to maximize the merits and how to minimize the weakness.
In the immediate future, at least according to Henley and Partners, the wealthy will continue to depart. The firm projects that South Korea will see a net outflow of 2,400 millionaires this year, worth some $15.2 billion collectively.
This phenomenon that very rich people are moving outside the country is not necessarily a good sign for younger generation or middle class, because if the younger generation see the rich people are moving outside the country, it can be signaling them that Korea may not be a very good place for rich people to live.
When they move to their countries, it is not only their fortune, but they live with their own networks, their investment plan, or their knowledges, their experiences. It's a kind of big expenditure, big cost for Korea.
For Ken, at least, based in Singapore, he does not see himself returning anytime soon.
If I go back to Korea, the problem is that all the wealth I accumulate in Singapore, I have to pay half in Korea when I pass my wealth to my daughters. I just regularly visit Korea about 5 times or 6 times per year. I don't think I'll go back to Korea.